QB Power Hour is a free biweekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan.
Well, it's not Michelle and Dan. Actually, Michelle and Matt. No, it's Dan and Matthew. Oh my goodness, what a day already. Well, welcome to another QB Power Hour. We're going to be talking about QBO updates, or like in general terms, Intuit updates, and our Facebook group Q&A. And as you know, Michelle is typically on the Power Hour, but as you may or may not know, she's actually now Mimi Michelle, and she had her first grandbaby. Aurora Bay was born about a week ago, so fresh out of the oven, and so she's taken some time to spend some time with that new grandbaby. I talked to her yesterday, and she is just loving her 6 a.m. Grandma duties of relieving the mom after the morning feeding. So she's loving that. So we appreciate everything that Michelle brings to us, and hopefully she enjoys her time with her family. My name is Dan DeLong, owner at Danwith and School of Bookkeeping. Worked at Intuit for nearly 18 years, co-hosting today also at the Workshop Wednesdays. And joining us today is Matthew Spot. Introduce yourself, a long friend of the show here.
Hello, everybody. Dan, thank you so much for bringing me on to be a guest co-host. And Michelle, congratulations on the newest addition to your family. 6 a.m. in the morning. I mean, I've always heard it's amazing to be a grandparent because you can do something for a bit, but then give the kid back. But 6 a.m. I mean,
right.
So
it might be short,
yeah.
But one of my favorite Zig Ziglar quotes is, if I had any idea if grandkids were so much fun, I would have been nicer to their parents.
That actually makes a lot of sense. That's a good one.
Right?
So real quick, super fast intro. Matthew Fulton, founder of Parkway Business Solutions, the founder of QB Community Live Facebook group, which, Dan and I were talking about. I'll bet you the majority of the people that are in that group are also part of the QB Power Hour group, which is amazing. Work with LedgerSync directly as a workflow consultant. I like playing with apps and connecting the dots and having fun. And it's just a true honor to be here on the show that helped launch my career. So thank you so much.
Well, we enjoy having you here, and we appreciate your perspective and your giving heart to this community. So appreciate you joining us here today. All right, so a little bit about the details about the QB Power Hour. If you're just joining us for the first time, I appreciate Matthew for sweetening up this slide, because it was a terrible mess from before. So here you see his handiwork. So beginning in August, the QB Power Hour will be eligible for CPE credit, but only on the first one of the month. So moving forward, we're going to have a CPE sponsor, Makers Hub, who's going to be here next time to talk about their updates to their platform, but they are going to be our CPE sponsor just for the first one of the month. So we have 12 eligible CPE credits just by watching and participating with the QB Power Hour. You can always go to the website to check out updates and information. We are trying to make QB Power Hour a place for not just our webinar series, but others that are out there that might need some help with just getting the word out as far as what else is out there to educate yourself on. You can always go and check the PDFs of the slides, the recordings, podcasts at qbpowerhour.com/resources. So a little bit of the housekeeping and things of that nature. If you have specific questions of the things that we're going to be talking about and unpacking today, please put them in the Q&A because it makes it a lot easier for us to follow up, especially if we can't answer it live on the webinar. If you have just general comments about being a grandparent or anything like that, just please put them in the chat in the comments as well. And then we have the link, which hopefully Matthew was nice enough to share for
Already
the
done.
handouts. Excellent for the handouts there. And we'll also have the podcast once we complete the webinar today. We also have, we're trying to simulcast, which I didn't get to do into the Facebook group just yet. They'll be in there. But if you are watching on social channels, especially Facebook, the streaming service that we use to put them into those social media channels, especially Facebook, needs your permission in order to see you. Otherwise, when you comment there, it just looks like a nebulous Facebook user, and we don't know who you are when we're trying to communicate with the engagement here. But there's a QR code there for that. If you're watching us on the Facebook group, we also have a store to help support our efforts here. So let's just kind of jump into what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about QuickBooks news and updates. Every time Matt and I were just talking, every time we seem to get together on a webinar, we're talking about pricing updates. Either that they do a lot of pricing updates, or Matthew is the bad luck
Yeah.
of talking about pricing updates. So we will try to coordinate that better so that we're not always talking about pricing updates with Matthew, but we are going to be unpacking the latest round of pricing updates. If you hadn't noticed, there was a lot of news last week about layoffs at Intuit, so we're going to be talking about that. And we'll, if we have time, there's a lot to unpack in just those two things. We'll talk about some of the QBO updates and Facebook group Q&As, which will likely be very similar things that we'll be talking about today. So let's start with our first poll. Just what version of QuickBooks do you use to support your clients? Is it QuickBooks Online, desktop, both, something else, or maybe you're not an accounting it doesn't apply to you. So yeah, Matt, what you prefer, Matthew or Matt? Let me just start there. Or does it matter?
Most of my friends all know me as Spot, actually, believe it or not. From there, you can call me Matthew or Matt. It really doesn't matter. Usually Matthew or Spot. Now there's more Matthews out there nowadays, so I'm having to readjust in a sense. And since I can't vote here, I'm going to say it out loud. Primarily QuickBooks Online myself, but I do still do some desktop. But I definitely am a QBO type person.
Okay. Fantastic. So let's go ahead, and we're just about wrapping up on the poll. In open a minute, I'll end it, share the results. So yeah, most people are both, but then closely followed by solely QuickBooks Online, and then desktop gets the nod, as always, of those loyal few that still like in the desktop. It is the dog versus the cat. You can train the dog to fetch. All right, so let's talk about the QuickBooks pricing updates. We do have a link in the handouts to the Intuit article, which is a great place to get the more information about frequently asked questions and whatnot. But no one is spared from from this year's round of pricing updates. I think last year QuickBooks Online didn't get too much. But yeah, it did. I'm sorry. It did get a pricing update last year. But so let's just kind of jump into that and unpack that. So QuickBooks Online pricing, everything across the board is looks like it's getting a pricing update. And these are just monthly prices. If you want to figure out what the annual price is, it's really 12 times the monthly price less 10%.
Okay.
Right. So that's an easy way to figure it out, because for some reason, they don't want to know. They don't want us to know what the annual price is, but that's the mathing convention. Is that whatever the monthly price is, multiply that times 12 months, and then give yourself a 10% discount for paying annually. That's what the annual price will be. But pretty much $5 across the board up until Plus. Then we get $99 for Plus, and then Advanced gets a huge increase this time of $35. Now the dates on that for we're at about 15 days for if you purchase through Intuit Direct, new and existing will get that update. If you are on accountant build, whether that be through a reseller or your ProAdvisor preferred pricing firm build, is a mouthful. That will occur after September 1st. If you have a client, or if you are in a subscription that is under some kind of promotion, they will continue to honor that promotion until the promotion expires. And then, whether that's, 3 months, 6 months, whatever that promotion happens to be, that's the pricing that you'll pay until that expires. And then you'll be in the new MSRP.
Do you mind if I because this is always an area that everybody's going to ask questions again. So if you don't mind, I'm going to try to kind of reiterate what you were just saying as well. Because this is pretty much true on the different date wise. The dates may change a bit, but the concept is the same. So again, the first date is if you do not have any kind of an account whatsoever, and you're going directly to QuickBooks Online and you're creating a brand new account, you will see the new pricing as of August 1st on this area here. And if you already have an account, but it's a direct account, so in other words, no accountant involved in the relationship of the pricing, so forth, pricing increases the beginning, right?
Well, okay, that's a good point, because when I say Intuit Direct, that means Intuit is managing the billing, right?
Yeah.
So you can, if you create the client in your QBOA after August 1st, that it will be subject to these new prices, right?
Good point.
So,
Yes.
as long as that is the case, that you are either using the revenue share, right, through your QBOA, or
Wholesale billing.
direct discount.
Yeah.
But if you're at August 15th, for example, and you do a firm build QBO subscription, that is not going to be subject to the new price rate, base rate, until September, after the September 1st threshold, which will then, this will be the base rate, and then you get your 30% discount off of that. Good point there. Did that answer the question, or?
No, it's just I know that always comes up every time, and so we're going to go through pricing on quite a few different things. So when you guys are seeing the dates below, this same kind of logic will follow along with those dates. But be sure to ask questions in the Q&A. As I'm looking to the side, I'm watching for those questions to help with that too.
Got it. Perfect. All right. So desktop. Oh, this one's it's on hurt.
Yeah.
I think this is part of Intuit's strategy, right? Of taking the pricing out of the mix when it comes to, well, would I stay with desktop, or would I go to QuickBooks Online at this point? And they're looking for the breaking point, I think. So, I mean, over the past couple of years, this has increased dramatically, with that, to say the least. So Pro Plus and Mac Plus it will go from $649. This is for a single user, to $999. So $999 for Pro for a single user every year, and that's going to take place at October 1st on the annual renewal. So these are annual subscriptions, even if they are paying monthly. I don't even know if you can pay monthly
I haven't seen that.
for these things. But when it comes to renew, this price will be the pricing. So Premier Plus, significant increase, a $350 increase next over year. And I believe so the additional user cost, I couldn't find any reference to that. It was $200 last year for each additional user for Plus, $300 for each additional user under Premier. I assume that there's going to be a per user increase as well, but I don't have the details of that. Matt, have you heard anything about that?
So even last year, they didn't ever list that on the website itself. It was only through a fillable form that I actually found those prices that you'd have to then submit to try to get the extra user. So I think you're probably pretty close on the pricing, but we don't know for sure. My question is, what's going to be the dollar that breaks desktops back?
Right. And now that everyone is in a subscription,
Yeah,
we
everyone.
are at the mercy of those pricing decisions, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing feedback from from clients who are still in the desktop space that are I think ridiculous and and can't afford. Will probably be in that sentence somewhere as they reach out about that, because they're going to talk to you first,
Yeah.
and not Intuit. Any thoughts about the desktop increase?
Well, so there was one other piece that, at least it's still working now through the end of September, that I made a video a couple months back on my YouTube channel showing people where they can go to actually directly buy from Intuit the desktop license, whichever one you need, without having
Hmm.
to go through the phone calls and the circular, what's available, what's not.
Hmm.
That is one way you can kind of save a bit of time. This is going to keep happening this way. It's like you said, Dan. This is their manner in which they are migrating people over to the online platform. So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, and they've made statements and claims that QuickBooks Online is essentially on par with most features of Pro and Premier, right? So that's their logic, if there is one, with regards to that. It's like, hey, if you're really, if cost is what's keeping you in QuickBooks Desktop, well, then we'll remove that from from the equation until until there's a realization. Oh, okay, well, let's go ahead and make that jump now. One other thing I did want to mention about the Pro and Premier, they did extend.
to
Can't
September
go back.
30th, right?
Yes, the stop sell date, which was in
July
15
31st.
days,
Yeah.
July 31st, meaning that Intuit will no longer sell new subscriptions of Pro and Premier after July 31st, has been extended to for 3 months to the end of September. So great news for those that still want that, but that's going to be, it's at the current pricing until October 1st, and then boom, the next time that it renews, it'll be at the the $9.99 rate or the $13.49. And I'm stuck. Where is my cursor? There, there it is. Oh, now I went too far. All right. So the online payroll is getting a pricing overhaul. Again, across the board, $5 for the base, but also $1, $1 across the board for per employee charge. So could be significant for the number of employees. Those bear that in mind. Again, the same date structure. If it's billed through Intuit Direct, new and existing ones after August 1st. If it's accountant billed, that won't happen until September 1st, as far as the new pricing model there. Again, the promotion, if they're on a promotion, they will have the current price until that promotion expires. Any thoughts there, Matthew, on the
You
on the
know,
payroll?
on the payroll stuff for sure, I was looking at the pricing this and I didn't realize how far the pricing has increased over time at the base rate. You know, they are adding additional value on. I do like, and I know we're going to talk about in a second here, the whole thing with QuickBooks Time and how that's
Mhm.
engaged into it. My personal preference is using QuickBooks Online with QuickBooks Time and QuickBooks Online Payroll. That's where I think the three pieces come together magically. Um, but I cannot deny the pricing just keeps increasing and increasing. So I'm wondering when it will level out.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the premium and elite. You're getting the premium and elite QuickBooks Time, included with that,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like, hey, it's less per person than doing it a la carte. However, if not everyone is a time entry user, you're kind of spending more per employee to have some of those functions. Now you don't have the base cost of QB time, and
Yeah.
you can take that into consideration. But if you have like 3 time users and 30 employees, that ends up being a very costly add-on, by bundling that.
Again, I know we're going to talk about QuickBooks Time in a bit. This where that comes into play also is if you're using different third-party payroll software, and you're trying to use the time. But I'll pause on that till we get to more of that information in a second here.
Got it. Yep, good idea. Because we're on 20 minutes and still haven't gotten
Okay.
all the pricing. All right, so desktop payroll not immune to this year's round of pricing increases. September 1st is the date. Of course, there's no accountant billed option here, so it's all direct billed. I can't believe there's still a basic payroll option still available. I have not found a way to purchase that said thing, but they're no longer actively selling that either. So that's enhanced payroll is on the stop sell timeline as well. So July, or not July 31st, but September 30th now. But any active subscriptions is now getting a substantial increase as well for the base. If you're on basic payroll, which is basically, sorry to use the word basic too many times there. But if you're on basic payroll, it just doesn't allow for e-filing and e-pay of your
Awesome.
taxes. So it's basically payroll, right? Running paychecks and those types of things, and then everything else is outside of that. That's getting a base increase of $150 annually, and then the per employee cost is going up $1 for that. Enhanced payroll is also getting $150 base increase and $1 per employee as well. And those are active employees, right? So as long
Yeah.
as you have an active employee, whether you're paying them or not, you're paying them the per monthly charge. This one is a unique one. Enterprise, they're not increasing the price, but they are removing the accountant discount, right? So if you have a ProAdvisor discount that you've offered or per extended that to your client, that discount of 20% for seats up to 10 or 12.5% off of MSRP for 11 or more is being removed after October. I always say October and August, October 1st. So the interesting thing about this is that any new modification to existing licenses, adding seats, changing metals, going from silver to platinum or silver to gold, because incidentally, you go back to the desktop payroll updates. If you are using silver and you upgrade to gold, that includes the enhanced payroll service without any payroll
Mm.
fees. So the employee costs or anything like that is bundled in to the enterprise gold subscription. if you were to do that, go from silver to gold just to save yourself on the payroll services cost, they would view that as a new subscription after October 1st, and subsequently you wouldn't have the discount after that point. So keep that in mind. This is something that you'll likely need to do with what's the word I'm like
Got to do the math on it.
Specific.
Figure it out,
yeah. Well, one, and when you talk to Intuit or however you're managing these subscriptions, make sure that you and your client are aware. Hey, these things could be determined as a new subscription, and keep that all in mind before just let's bundle it into gold, or those types of things, or you don't need these many seats, you let some people go or whatever. Bear that in mind, that could potentially be seen as a new event, a new subscription, which could potentially be more costly than what the money that you were trying to save them. But as long as their license is unchanged, discounts will remain. So if they're in a silver license or platinum or diamond or whatever, they currently have a ProAdvisor discount associated with that, their discount will remain. But as we're seeing play out here is they're looking for anything to to be a trigger event. Aha! Okay, well now you're new pricing.
So the key thing to that, I would say, as a takeaway is if you're thinking you're going to be adding to your headcount, you want to probably take a look at this before that conversion date wise.
Right.
And it may actually make more sense if you're going to diminish a person to continue to pay for that extra seat, instead of messing up your subscription. And if you are changing anything, request a quote via email and get it in writing to make sure, and look at it to make sure you're not having an unexpected impact.
Exactly. Good point there. Accountant is part of the pricing update as well. So desktop accountant, if you just have the premier desktop accountant software, that subscription is going up $200. If you are a ProAdvisor with the premier desktop, that is going up $200. I'm not sure, and I know there's always cases for this, but the difference between those first two columns of desktop accountant and not being a ProAdvisor, I'm not sure what qualifies you for either one. I was even confused about that working there. It's like, why would they not do a ProAdvisor or multiple ProAdvisors and just purchase the software themselves? But they made it as an option. So, but that is both of them are getting a $200 increase annually, and the ProAdvisor Enterprise, which includes Enterprise and
Mac.
Premier, and if there is Mac's Mac and point of sale used to be an added point of thing in there, but both of those are being discontinued as well.
That's right.
But that's now a $300 increase, and that will begin after October 1st. So again, if you're on whatever your annual renewal date, that's when the new pricing will take place. This one, they kind of snuck that in. The accountant payroll service, which they no longer actively sell. They no longer actively sell. I think Matt was reading that for the first time. So enhanced payroll for accountants is the ability for you as an accountant to have up to 50 EINs under your subscription. And typically it's an add-on to your ProAdvisor bundle, which whatever the price happens to be, and you bundle it in with your desktop ProAdvisor membership, you typically get a 50% discount off of that. Last year, it went up from $750 to $1,400. This year, it's going from $1,400 to $2,800 annually, and the direct deposit fee per, so this is per paycheck, is going up from $4 per direct deposit to $5. Now those direct deposit fees are typically client paid, and they're not necessarily billed to you. However, it is something to consider. And this is only for the big difference here with this subscription is this fee is only when you do direct deposit, right? So if you're printing paper checks or doing things after the fact, these fees don't apply. Unlike all of the other payroll services where it's per employee, it doesn't matter if how they're getting paid. This one actually does matter, how they're getting paid. So initial thoughts there, since you kind of dropped your jaw there.
Well, the fast version of it is thanks for the 50% off discount, which takes us back to the price for the previous year. I appreciate that one. And then, so I want to actually bring up, Grace had asked in the comments, why is the ProAdvisor Premier called bundle? So Dan was trying to talk about that earlier. You get the special pricing where you get the QuickBooks desktop accountant version, and you get to be a ProAdvisor, which means you can take the test to become certified for it. You can use that as part of your profile, so forth. So I believe they're trying to support the accountant very specifically that way when they're engaged in that part of the community with the extra discount. You can buy just the accountant version independently because we have different tools that way. And they're trying to make sure that people are using it with the right intent, which is why doing the ProAdvisor Premier Bundle is less than just buying the software by itself, is my thought.
Yes. So certifications and the support for such things, when you call, that's part of the ProAdvisor bundling of the desktop. Some people just give me the software.
Yeah.
I just need that. So that's where the desktop accountant comes in. Good point. So a lot of times you can kind of look at this and go, "Hey, this is terrible." So the big features of the enhanced payroll for accountants is, of course, the 50 EIN. So if you have 50 EINs, that is a substantial savings over purchasing enhanced payroll a la carte.
Yeah.
But if you have maybe 5, this is a significant per client increase. Now, thinking of the other things that are out there, right? So enhanced payroll is included with Enterprise Gold, and that allows for up to 3 EINs under the enhanced. So that may be something to consider as well. Like maybe I can move people to Enterprise Gold. They have their own subscription. There's no payroll costs associated with that. This might be a trigger event. Again, this may be on purpose to say, hey, okay, how do I offload my enhanced payroll for accountants subscription? This may be an option to do that. The other thing that you can do, the only thing that enhanced payroll for accountants does is allows you to do payroll after the fact, right? A la Excel spreadsheet. And it allows you to do the paid preparer, right? Fill out the paid preparer piece of that. So if those things are requirements, then you're kind of in this area. If you do let your enhanced payroll for accountants lapse and it goes past its grace period, they will not be able to reinstate such a thing. I've heard some horror stories of once that door closes and that subscription lapses, it's really difficult to get it reinstated, and a significantly higher pricing point in order to do that anyway. Matt, any thoughts there?
This is causing quite the kerfuffle in the comments here in Zoom.
I figured it would.
Which understood, right? So the key takeaway, because people were asking, like, so you're saying that it's going to be $1,400 if I'm doing ProAdvisor, I need the enhanced payroll, and I need my ProAdvisor for the desktop. You're going to be paying your $9.99 plus the 1,400, which is the 2,800 minus your 50% discount, is going to be the base amount that you'd be paying for the 1 year for all the stuff. That's up to 50 EINs. And then if you're doing direct deposit, you'd be still paying the $5 per direct deposit check fee.
Right.
Wow.
Big increase, yeah. And a little honorable mention to desktop payments. And we talked about last year, there was a big change to QuickBooks Online payments. And so you can check us out. You did a great video last year on that. But desktop payments is just getting homogenized with the online payments when it comes to ACH. Used to be a per transaction fee of $3, regardless of the dollar amount. Now it is being moved to 1%. If they are a new customer, it's 1%, no cap. And then if they are an existing customer, it's 1% of with a cap of $15. So basically, they'd have to be, what is it, 1,500, higher than $1,500 to have that cap
Charge
per transaction, and that's going to take place after October 1st. Were you going to say something?
One thing to add on to it, from what I understand, at least this was for QuickBooks Online. If you are not linked under an accountant with merchant processing, you can link under an accountant to invoke that cap piece. I know for sure QuickBooks Online you could. It may be possible. I'd have to look into if the desktop realm will do the same thing or not.
Yeah, it might be, that might be an uphill battle.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it depends on where you started and how long those accounts have been open. So as Matt had mentioned, QB Time standalone is being removed, and this is just the ability to sell QuickBooks Time as a standalone timekeeping option. So the direct stop sell is August 1st. Most payroll options, they bundle, QB Time. So the QuickBooks Enterprise Diamond includes a QuickBooks Time option for timekeeping. This one is actually kind of nice because you can just pay for the timekeeping users that you're using, and not necessarily every employee that might be eligible. And then QBO Premium and Elite includes the Premium or Elite QB Time service as well. So just that standalone, which kind of coincides with their other announcement of their closing the Boise office, which is where T-Sheets or QuickBooks Time actually was based out of. So doesn't mean that they're not supporting QuickBooks Time. It just means that they're no longer actively selling it as its own standalone timekeeping option.
That's a great point that you brought up. That was a question that Caleb brought up within QB Community Live, because I think there was a bit of misunderstanding on that part of it. That definitely add the context to it. So QB Time's not going anywhere; it's still around, but it's the independent selling of it it's changing.
Right. I mean, because most of the things are bundling it in, so it's just an option, or it's not an option to buy to buy it by itself. Okay, so this kind of coincides with and edges into the Intuit announcement of restructuring. There was an announcement last week that 1,800 positions, 10% of Intuit's workforce, is being laid off. Now, this is fairly common. As an employee of Intuit for nearly 18 years, this was a yearly concern. I guess it's the nicest way to put it, right? So Intuit's fiscal year ends July 31st. So June and July, a lot of people were on edge, right? Like, what's new? What are they planning for August 1st? And how does that impact me and my employment there? So they're closing sites, Edmonton, Canada, and Boise, Idaho. In the communication, there's a link there to it. They plan to rehire all, if not more, of those positions. And this was fairly a common practice, which when I explained it to people, it was a little foreign. And as a non-Intuit person, Matthew, I'm curious of your experience and the people that are watching as well. Does this make sense? Like, right? Is there logic to it? Because typically there will be a restructuring. Typically somebody new will come in from the outside and give their perspective. They'll create a restructuring, which will cause they'll look at their workforce and their job positions that are tied to support that, and they'll potentially eliminate some positions. There were many years where nothing happened, so it wasn't always every July or June there was like, okay, who's gone now? But it just depended on those what was happening and in response to the marketplace, right? So what Intuit would typically do is they would eliminate those positions and allow for those people who were eliminated to reapply, right, for the positions that they were rehiring for. Also, outside people could rehire or apply for those positions as well. So it was kind of this catch and release type of thing, and I always kind of joked about it when I was working there that Intuit was such an environmentally friendly company because they recycled employees, right? But I kind of understood the logic because they had this initiative called Hiring for Awesome, right? Which allowed people who were passionate about the job position or the qualifications or those types of things to apply for those positions, and they could actually get the talent that was interested with that, right? Where a traditional company might look at it like, okay, here are these positions that we're going to be letting people go, and assess their workforce that they already have and say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We think you would be good in this position, and move people to those positions, as opposed to, well, you're gone, but you're welcome to come back. What are your thoughts on that from a non-Intuit culture person?
So I'm torn on this two different ways, and you guys have kind of heard me say this once before, that first thing we have to kind of remember, this is a publicly traded corporation, which doesn't make me feel good about the fact that somebody like Allison, Allison, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name the right way, or I would try. She's been so supportive in all the different communities. Thank you. Exactly. She always jumps in to help people out, ask questions, do all that kind of stuff. So that is one example of a true loss that all of our communities that we're going to feel. I understand the need to shuffle people around, or look, some people, as they said, they feel will just be more successful and outside of Intuit. We've all worked in companies where you had an employee that just was not, they weren't happy there. And one unhappy employee takes down more than one person traditionally. But the idea of letting go a whole force of people to bring other people in, it's a bummer. We don't want to hear of anybody losing their positions, but they're doing it because they need talent in different areas of growth. I'm not a developer. I can't write code. So that means if they need somebody who can do AI, they need somebody who can do that part.
Right.
So it's a bummer.
Yeah, and I wanted to throw out this poll question because I'm really curious about what other people have done. As far, and this is multiple choice, right? So you can choose multiple options, right? Like, what is your experience with layoffs? Were you the one that was let go? You were the one letting people go, or you were the survivor and watching people go, or not at all? I'm just curious how that kind of plays out. Any experiences on your side, Matthew?
Yeah, so in a prior career, being a manager, I'll never forget two people that I had to lay off. One of the best educations I ever got was running a luxury item business in 2008 during the housing crisis, everything else, and that was really really tough. It came down to we survived through most of it, but either I had to let myself go, or I was going to have to let go of like two other people, and I ended up letting myself like firing myself, which was the right decision at that time, but it sucked. I
Hmm.
will say, from what I'm hearing, and this really only helps for a short period of time, the way they're trying to approach it, from what I understand with Intuit, is the compensation package for the severance packages are it's better than most industry people do. It's still scary, right? I mean,
Hmm.
just because you have it, there's no guarantee what your next job is going to be like. But I will say I'm also excited to see where the people we do know, where they land, because it's great
Yeah,
people will find a home, and now we have a new opportunity to create a new relationship with a new company.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, the first time that I had this news delivered to me was the summer of 2008, right? And this was like right before, the the the, the housing market crash of 2008, and a lot of people had like, okay, I'll take the package, right? And then boom, like nobody was hiring like right after that. It was significantly um, odd timing, for all of those things to take place, and the in those types where if
Well,
my cursor
Dan,
so I can go to the next
we
one.
wouldn't have you here today, Dan, if it wasn't because of a prior layoff,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And Joyce said, I would not have the breadth of experience that I have if I had not been laid off. It was never
Hmm.
pleasant, but in the long run, I gained much more experience by working at multiple companies. So
Hmm.
ultimately, we
Yeah,
wish everybody the best, that this becomes a positive move for your career.
yeah, yeah. I didn't see it at the time, but I was blessed that it happened to me, which was 10 years later. It was 2008 when it was first impacted, and then 10 years later, when I would have volunteered to to take
Yeah.
the package, and like I was the only one rejoicing that I was getting the news, because it now gave me this opportunity to do other things, because of those, well, for lack of a better word, a golden handcuff,
Yeah.
right? It was funny because David Leary, as you know from the accountant podcast, he left the same day I was let go. Like he walked out the door, like, hey, I'm leaving. And then he realized that there was a layoff going on. I was like, wait a minute, can I can I renegotiate this? And they're like, no, you made your decision.
He's doing
So
okay now.
he's
In
doing
that
fun, just
case,
fine as well. Exactly.
you never know what's going
So
to land.
wanted to talk a little bit about what was the reason, right? So Sasan made a communication. We'll talk a little bit about that, and um, how we might feel about that. But Sasan made a global communication to all employees to let them know, hey, this is happening, and he itemized out four things as to why, right? So they want to revolutionize their speed to benefit, which is, I mentioned the big bets here, which are the big bets of Intuit, to make sure that their business is sustainable, in the future. Connecting people to experts, was the other one. Accelerating money solutions. So, QuickBooks Bill Pay, QuickBooks Payments, those types of the capital options, all the things that have to deal with money options, and then disrupting the mid market. But I wanted to point out this connecting people to experts, which is their big bet too. And I'm just going to read it. Our AI-driven expert platform is a game changer for Intuit. No other company can deliver a digital platform with embedded AI-powered human expertise at our scale to serve the financial needs of consumers, small and mid-market businesses, and partners. We are increasing investments in data and AI to more effectively leverage account accurate and complete data to do the work for our customers and match customers to the right experts. It's very telling that the right is in quotes there, in real time, to provide specific personalized assistance to fuel their success. To advance this area, we are hiring additional talent to bolster our expert network, teams that are augmented by AI to assist our customers, and we are investing in hiring marketing talent to deep expertise in digital services. No mention of accounting.
So I want to
Right.
say that they have absolutely accomplished the disruption process with the new Intuit Assist inside QuickBooks Online. It's driving me nuts. You can't get past it, you get stuck in the loop. So they're trying really hard to build this stuff out, but it's just it's needed, right? And they have been in this market. They have been putting the time and energy towards AI for quite some time. They have more data than any other company. So I think we're going to look back in 2 years, not even 2 years, and be grateful for the functionality we have. But it's the growing pains we're going through right now, and the worry and concern that has us emotional.
Yeah, and this particular snippet here is I am, with Intuit Assist and AI and connecting people to the right experts. I don't know where bookkeeping, accounting professionals fit into that, with regards to being that right expert. So this tells me, hey, we're going to be hiring our experts, whatever that might be, and the independent practitioner may not be a part of that, and that's concerning to me and to the community in general, because it's a big bet, right? I mean, it is something that they're doubling down as a big bet. And there is no mention in here of accounting partnerships, which is
It's a good point.
concerning. So this link here that I've included here is available. This communication that Sasan sent out is available on their blog. You can read it. I've linked to it in here. A couple things that kind of backfired on this communication was Sasan had itemized out the groups of people who were impacted. They didn't list them out. Like, okay, you are gone, you stay, that sort of thing. But he kind of grouped them together in his communication to let people know, hey, this is what's happening here. Typically, because they do this, on potentially an annual basis, and they're very good at taking care of their people. They give them, coaching and outplacement services, and the severance package is phenomenal. I myself got 6 months of pay basically by leaving, which was great. But in the first group, he labeled over half of the people, 1,050 employees, not meeting expectations.
That's a hard thing to say that way.
Yeah, and that kind of goes counterculture and counterintuitive to taking care of people as they're leaving. Because if you're labeling people as not meeting expectations, and you'd be better off somewhere else. Now that hinders their future employment opportunities, right? Like, I don't want to call out Allison, but is she part of that group? Right?
Not in my book.
Not in my book, because we've had personal relationships with Allison, but how does that make people feel? Like prospective employers, like, oh, you came from Intuit. In the past, that was a blessing. People would, my wife, when she was let go from Intuit, she was hunted by other employees because she came from that Intuit culture. And hey, we need that in our company, but now it may cause some pause, right? Like, oh, you were let go this year. Over half of those were not meeting expectations. Am I going to be? Is that? Should I be concerned about that? What are your
I,
thoughts?
I think though that like because of the amount of news and everything else that's out there, I think people are pretty intelligent with it. If you happen to be one of the people that were let go, hopefully you have a direct supervisor you can be reaching out to and getting a letter of recommendation, something of that nature that will help you. But this definitely screams, it's not us, it's you. Instead of
Mm,
it's not you, it's me kind of a breakup. It's,
right.
a flip-flop that definitely doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And it definitely has the culture, coming from that side of the bad, so to speak. Um, and this is probably a common practice these days, and not knowing, not having employees myself, not being so close with payroll. It's typically there is a base and then there's a variable component to compensation. And they had completely adopted this, right? Where you had your base pay and then you had stretch goals each and every year. And those goals is what caused people to not meet expectations because they would keep stretching them year over year and tie that to your variable compensation. So I imagine that's what's not meeting expectations. And when they say non-meeting expectations, is their expectations are pretty darn high.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just can't, as an employee, reach those expectations. The other thing that was really burning my s'mores was that was that he sent out this email as a global communication and notified people, put everybody on alert that this is happening today, but also put everybody on alert that people will get notified by 9 a.m. Pacific time. And if you didn't get an invite of a calendar invite leaving Intuit discussion by 9 a.m., you were not one of the people that were impacted.
Unless
Uh,
there was a problem with an email or something, and like that just doesn't feel good, right?
yeah, I
Um,
mean this smelled of like Elon Musk at Twitter, right? Like if you get a company email, um, you're good, right? And basically put the entire workforce, 18,000 employees, on pins and needles that day
yeah.
until that time passed. So what do people do during that morning? Like, do I work? Do I not work? Do I what? What is going to happen here? Um, that particular thing is that was my wife worked for Intuit for 10 years, and she had nothing but great things to say about her experience there. This actually cost her to take some second looks, like, oh my goodness, this is I can't believe they were doing this sort of thing.
There's this concept of what they call a wartime CEO and a peacetime CEO. And I believe that Brad Smith was the peacetime CEO in comparison to Sasan. He's very, it's known since the beginning, AI focused, heavily driven, stock price, paying attention to it heavily. I strongly recommend to people every quarter they do an annual update meeting that is publicly available on their website. It has to be. Listen to them. You'll get better insights. I know you get the articles afterwards, but you can get a lot more by listening to it and understanding where things are going at times. So,
That's a good point. Good point. All right, so we are about out of time, so we'll probably need to save these QuickBooks or QBO updates, for another time. But we did want to talk about uh, about about those things, because all of these things are in service to making the product better. And QuickBooks Online is definitely each month is getting some things, and we wanted to talk about those things which kind of warrant these pricing increases and the changes that they're making here. Importing journal entries. You can now use products on the bank feeds, so products and services. Texting invoices. If you're emailing invoices, you can also text them to people. And the long suited or sought after payroll corrections, being able to correct payroll transactions, is finally making a debut. And role-based firm and client access for QuickBooks Online accountant users is finally getting its share there. So I did want to throw out this last poll here before we end. After this webinar, has your opinion of today's topic changed? I can't imagine any of this helping, but I mean, hopefully it puts people gives people some context, and also make sure that people are aware that these impending pricing changes and when they're happening, to have that open communication with your clients to make sure that they're aware of that as well, and being able to speak to it, because when these things happen and when Intuit makes a change, oftentimes that is you're the first line of defense as an accountant professional to be able to explain what is actually happening here. Matthew, any closing thoughts there?
Just wanted to, I put the link into the chat again for everybody that you can go and you can download these slides. So Dan put a lot of time, energy, and effort into this information, and he's showing you the QBO updates there, but he goes into a little bit deeper detail. You can download the slides, get a little more context from that, but I'm sure there'll be other ways we can also help educate on these other things that are coming up. So
so we'll actually have these QBO updates, a little bit more deeper dive on a future webinar, and then we'll go from there. Matthew, I appreciate you joining us here today and sharing your insights into these hot topics.
Can I come back for a fun topic next time?
Yes, absolutely. I'll take a look at the future ones and okay, this one's a little less Debbie Downer. Let's have Matthew back on.
Love it. Well, thank you again for the opportunity. Thank you to everybody who joined us today for this. We hope it was educational. Again, this is the nature of business. Things are going to be changing at times. It's just up to us how we choose to look at it. If we keep it from a positive perspective, we're going to be able to grow, mature with it, and do something great with our businesses.
All right. And we'll see you next time on the QuickBooks Power Hour. Hope everybody has a great day. Bye now.